All right. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome. This is Elizabeth and Jeff Beaudre, the owners of Tipple's Brews and Wines in Gainesville, Florida. And this is the Tuesday Wine of the Week tasting. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
You sound like you're leading into a sporting
I'm going to
event.
get an air horn.
Please don't.
Okay. Well, maybe not. All right. This week, hey, you can be a little more bold. We're drinking an Australian wine, right? Okay. This week, we're going to the Voyager Estate Vineyards white blend of Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. Traditional Bordeaux white blend, by the way. We'll talk a little bit about that, but okay. Bordeaux, France kind of created that blend. Kind of did. So from the Margaret River growing region within Australia. So like we said last week, we jumped from Austria to Australia. And I'm just going to use parts of the words as we go.
Yeah,
yeah, right. Going to Brazil next week.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So if you have not already done so, crack your bottle open. It is a cracker this time because it is a Stelvin enclosure. So screw top, Stelvin enclosure, call it what you will. They work wonderfully and they do not mean an inferior quality of wine. Absolutely not. If there is a wine that is a Stelvin enclosure that has an inferior quality of wine, it just does. It
has nothing to do with the fact that it's a screw top.
Right. And I was watching the Master of Wine, Andre Mack, YouTube videos the other day on Bon Appetit. His stuff is fantastic, by the way. And that's the channel in the magazine, Bon Appetit. Anyway, and he called it just a screw top. He didn't even go Stelvin enclosure. So I was like, all right.
What did he say about the screw top?
He said, once again, same thing I did. He said, all right, everybody, because he was reviewing a group of wines. He said, understand, do not begin judgment about this wine based on a screw top. They do, it's a wonderful enclosure. It keeps things really fresh.
Are there any like super expensive ones that use that? Or they haven't moved over yet?
You probably would, if you're going to find really expensive ones, which I can't think of off the top of my head, you're going to find it from Australia or Oregon would be my guess.
Okay.
Both of those guys really into Stelvin enclosures.
Molly Dookers.
Molly Dookers are expensive. Yeah, there you go. Good point. And delightful. So, all right. So we have our white blend poured. I chilled it to around 40 degrees with at least an hour in the fridge for this guy. Takes a little bit of time to chill it down. All right. And let's go ahead and look at the slide, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, before we go on to the slide, though, Linda says she tastes passion fruit.
Oh, nice. She's in it already. She's in it to win it. Yes. I like that. All right, well, let's look at the first slide and we'll work our way to our initial scent and tasting notes. So the Voyager Estate Sauvignon Blanc Semillon white blend, James Suckling rated around 92 points. Well, yeah, 92. So very well appreciated. Food pairings, roast chicken or duck, seafood in a cream sauce, light curry dishes. So it's a really nice, fresh, acidic wine, but it isn't really light in body. So you can have some heavier foods.
Okay.
Not red, but.
So what you had this weekend would work really well.
Oh my gosh, the curry duck I had this weekend would be beautiful with this. I was thinking about it all day. All right, let's jump back over to us. We'll talk about it a little bit. The varietal content on this guy is 68% Sauvignon Blanc, 32% Semillon. And those are the grapes, Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. The password for this entry this week was Semillon. So there we go. Dad jokes. Alcohol content in this guy is robust, not unusual for Australia. Australia is very regularly on the heavy side of the alcohol content, 13% on a white.
For a white,
yeah. So age worthiness on this guy, not meant to be extremely aged, not that it wouldn't taste delicious in a different way, because I don't mind I really kind of like a well-aged, or call it not even well-aged, an extreme aged Sauvignon Blanc. because the carameliness that comes in.
Extreme, like 20, 25?
No, more like 10, because
Okay.
they're not really meant to be, they're meant to be
Okay.
fresh, you know.
Okay.
But this guy, I'd say, can go 5-7 years. And we're at 4 years right
We're at
now.
4 now.
Yeah. So we're right in, in the zone. All right.
And Linda's saying she now tastes lemongrass or something like that. It changed
Lemongrass.
fast.
Yeah. So I think lemongrass on the nose is the first thing. That's the herbacity that I'm getting is a nice lemongrass note.
Mhm.
You could almost go a little bell pepper, but I feel like it's not quite that. I think it's more lemongrass and grassy. It reminds me a little bit of pyrazemes, like a green bell pepper, but I would go more herby with the lemongrass.
What about a mild mineralization? You catch that?
Good point. Yeah. Definitely kind of like a wet slate kind of minerality on the nose. I like it very much. Almost reminds me a bit of what you would experience in an aged Riesling.
Okay.
And I don't know who I would have had some of that with recently, but boom. Hey, Jerry. But I like that. It's like lemongrass laying across a wet slate stone. And then, of course, you would lick that, right? Because that's what we do.
I was imagining. Remember how you said, you should always as you're going through life, smell things so that you increase your, I don't know, palate, your nose palate.
Yeah, it kind of refreshes your brain training with this smell.
I'm now just imagining you saying, "Oh, look, there's lemongrass and slate," and licking the ground or something. Because
I'm not saying I wouldn't do it.
Yes, you would not do that.
I would smell it.
You maybe you would smell it. Okay, so
Right,
Kristen Robbins said some petrol at the front, maybe
Yes.
some candied fruit after, peach gummy rings candy.
I like it. Okay, so I definitely go white peach. I like the passion fruit side on the, because it is a very tart tropical fruit, but with a lot of minerality on here. And we'll find out a little bit more about why that is, because we're getting notes in here that you would not say about a Sauv Blanc, right? A Sauvignon Blanc traditionally would be, well, if you're in New Zealand, grapefruit. You can get some boysenberry, gooseberry, really tart white berries. And maybe a little apple sometimes, a green apple, only green.
Right.
But we've got Semillon in here, right? And Semillon is a much richer, more tropical experience. And I think you're seeing them both play out. Whereas we are getting a nice salinity. It was interesting. Let's have this little, because this is maritime influenced. Let's take another sip and think about salinity. Are you getting a bit of a saltiness on the palate? I could definitely, I'd say that that's part of the minerality that we're getting. And really, and when you smell again, that almost petrol-y, very mineral thing, it reminds me a bit of a muscadet from northwestern France near the coast. And they get a little bit of the alkaline seaweed quality in their wines. And I can go a little bit with that here as well. A little bit of a, wakame, a little wakame-ish when you put the herbacity in.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the Snyders are saying I'm getting some of the traditional bright notes of a New Zealand Sauv, but I like the finish better in this than in the New Zealand wine. Is that the Semillon?
It would be the Semillon. It's going to give you that difference. Honeydew melon, it could totally go there as well. And that's going to be the Semillon.
Oh, for years I was only able to pick out the Argentine Malbecs and the New Zealand Sauvs. Yeah.
Well, it's true. And those are good options to start with, like when you're beginning to identify regions in your mind, because those are they stand out on their own so extremely. They're extreme standouts. New Zealand Sauv Blanc is a very unique beast. Argentinian Malbec is a very different, all things purple and chocolate. And that kind of thing. So not only, but largely.
And then Brian and Julie agreed with the honeydew. And then Chris Robbins said maybe white pepper.
White pepper. Let's go. Let's check out some of the herbacity on there.
Maybe on the finish. I get the white pepper on the finish a little bit. As I
I can
swallow.
go there. I can go, and it definitely would pair nicely with that, with something.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I go with that because there is a nice herbal quality. It's not just
Yeah.
lemongrass is an herb, clearly,
Sure.
but it's not just that. There's definitely a nice, so I would say we've got a really nice, easy to enjoy, but a lot of character white here.
Mhm.
So this is anything but, let's go with like a wine term, which I just read an article about this, right?
Mhm.
Linear, right? People and wine guys will say that all the time. Oh, this is a very linear wine. And with linear, it usually, though there can be, with everything in wine, it can be disputed, but I'm going to go with this. It's how I use it. And I believe it's the majority of usage. If somebody says this is a linear wine, it's really only giving you one or two flavors, mostly one dominant flavor. So maybe cheaper cold growth Pinot Noir is a good example. You tend to get just cranberry and a hint of baking spice, right?
Okay.
And I would call that very linear, because you're not getting cranberry and strawberry and maybe, and
Is that bad to be linear?
generally, yes.
Okay.
Generally, it would be a more unsophisticated wine,
Mhm.
and generally it means it's considered to be a little lower quality. I
Okay.
mean, so it doesn't mean that it wasn't grown well, but if
Mhm.
that's what it's giving you in the end, most people drinking the wine want a little more complexity. It gives you more flexibility on your food pairings, gives you more to appreciate if you're just dissecting the wine the way we are. In general, you would like a more complex wine, though I will say not always. I had a red wine today that I would consider to be the red wine Floridians should be drinking during the summer. You should chill it. It is really cool. All right. And it's fairly linear.
Okay.
But, for what it is, it's a crusher. It's just, you could have this with salad and you could have it with salmon.
Oh,
also,
we
it's
need to try
incredibly
that.
flexible. Yeah. It's one that you guys won't have had. It's while I was exploring
This is
based
next
on.
week?
No, but we'll do
Okay.
it soon.
Okay.
Next week, we're doing a little different. We're going back to my favorite Italian wine.
Don't
region,
give
but
too
anyway.
much away.
All right. So let's go back to the slides.
Okay, wait,
So
hold
let's,
on. We're gonna catch up with our chat first. So
Okay.
Julie says pink grapefruit. And then Linda said that she read that in Wine Enthusiast recently.
Okay.
David calls linear, not too many branches on that tree.
there you go. So pink grapefruit. On the finish, not even finish. Right on the back side of the mid palate, totally with you.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not on the way in, but then I was waiting, and then it really gets a little richer on the finish. I like riding the crest on there. Once again, full respect to this winemaker that we've got this all going on, as we go through it. And a little papaya, right? That goes with that. To me, the finish, just when you get past the pink grapefruit, I would go a little papaya. So,
Sure.
and we can debate the different tropical fruits, but let's say this: tart, but not overly tart, tropical, nice mouth filling.
Mhm.
I think it's a really enjoyable wine. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many different food pairings you could put with this as well. You could do a Mandarin chicken salad in addition to all the other
Oh,
ones.
yeah,
You could
that would
do,
be great with this.
but it's robust enough, bacon wrapped scallops, right? All the
What
food.
wouldn't you eat bacon wrap or drink with bacon wrap
Oh,
scallops? You
well.
would drink anything as long as they're feeding you bacon
If
wrap
there's bacon wrapped
scallops.
scallops, then
That's what
on there.
you-
Yeah, that's true. I will drink milk and bacon wrapped
Yeah.
scallops. I don't care.
As long as somebody said, if you drink this, you get to have bacon wrap scallops. You'd be
Yes.
like, yes.
It is. Well, that's totally true.
Yeah, it's his favorite thing.
All right.
Can this be purchased by the case?
I bought all the rest of it that existed, and it looks like they may not be coming back, but I have an extra case in the store because I bought all of it. So,
Okay, there
yes,
you
it can. Yes, it can.
Brian's having like a little moment over the white wine, and every sip he takes, he's like, I'm just gonna drink this every week at the wine tasting. I'm just gonna keep drinking this.
Well,
Yeah,
you know what?
I'll just buy like a gallon of red food coloring. No one will know.
Yeah.
There you go. Cheers to you. I'm glad you like it so much, Brian.
Got a classy one, kids.
Okay, let's go to the slides. I
Okay.
think we've caught up.
All right.
There's a lot to cover. So
Here we go.
All right. So Sauvignon Blanc. So I always like to start out with the grapes, right? Origin of Sauvignon Blanc is the Loire Valley in France. We'll look at a map after we go through both grapes, right? So indigenous to France, and the Sauvignon, it comes from sauvage, which is wild.
Okay.
So in that, and interestingly, which I think is Sauvignon Blanc is one of the parent grapes, even though it's a white grape, of Cabernet Sauvignon. That's where that comes from.
That's right.
So Sauvignon Blanc crossbred with Cabernet Franc created Cabernet Sauvignon, which is the world's #1 wine grape in the world at this point. Sauvignon Blanc is the 8th most grown in the world.
Oh.
There we go. Gooseberry, honeydew melon, grapefruit, which we're getting, white peach. Somebody mentioned that. It's probably me. Passion fruit, which Linda nailed right out of the box. So we really have the whole thing.
Yeah.
You see sweetness is very low. It's generally, kind of a nice tart, high acid, low sweetness. And now Sauvignon Blanc has low light body, right? Very light bodied, which we will see the opposite of that as we go to
Semillon.
Semillon.
Would you like to move to Semillon?
Yes. All right. So here we are in the Semillon. All right. So lemon, green apple, pear, papaya. So we get some of that richer tropical fruit, and they play together with the Sauvignon Blanc to get some of that discussion we had about many different fruits, right?
Is this, it's a weird thing, but the grapes look more like amber colored to me. And I'm used to seeing them look, I know they're called white, but they look green, like the white grapes.
Oh, right.
So is this Semillon, is it truly more amber colored, or is it just, oh, this is where it is in the harvest when they took this picture?
Oh yeah, no, it's more amber colored.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it is definitely, and it adds really nice, kind of almost a viscous quality. If you have 100% Semillon, which we can do and should do in the future, it's a really heavy wine.
Okay.
For a white.
So there are wines that are just 100% single
Yes.
varietal with, okay.
Yeah, there are. You'll get some. We probably could find them because all right. So Semillon is grown mostly in France. It's the 3rd most popular white grown in France. The second after that, you have Australia and the United States.
Okay.
So there are some Semillons out there. It's not nearly as common, but they're usually really reasonably priced, especially even for the region. Semillon is grown in Bordeaux, not a cheap area of France, but the Semillon is kind of a deal out of there.
Is it, I mean, single varietal, it tastes good? Like,
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
exactly. I mean, I don't know. I think apples, pears, papaya with
Yeah.
a nice acidity sounds pretty good to me.
Sure.
So I'm pretty sure Brian will drink it. That's right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So even though it has like a heavier, more viscous juice, it's very thin skinned. And so you think, okay, well, thin skin, that it's much more susceptible because it's thin skinned. We talked about skin before. Thick skins help make more robust wines because they resist mold, mildew, rot, and all the different forms, right? And this one, to that end, it does not. It's really bad about that. But, right, when they grow it, there's an entire dessert wine based on them rotting very specifically with botrytis. Botrytis rot is called royal rot, and it makes very wonderful dessert wines.
Okay.
Whether it's here or the Tokai grape out in Hungary, which is Royal Tokai, makes a wonderful one. So that specific type of fungus gets on the outside of the skin and it pulls all the water out. And so it raisenates it on the vine while it's still maturing. And it's this wonderful combination that makes this wonderful. So Sauterne is the sub area within Bordeaux, France, that is most famous for making that dessert wine out of this grape. So it kind of has two different sides. So this one is often made into a sweet wine as it is into a dry wine. So let's go to, I believe, the map of France. All right. So if
I'm just gonna minimize that.
thank you. So Sauvignon Blanc is from the Loire Valley up here. And then we go down to Bordeaux for the Semillon. at least origin wise,
Right.
not what we're drinking this
Right,
week.
because we're drinking Australian.
But the Australians really, really engaged in this. They make, I probably see more of this other than from a Bordeaux Blanc,
Mhm.
white Bordeaux out of Australia than anywhere else.
Oh, wow.
But for much
Yeah,
more
they
than I
very
see out
much
of the United
embraced it
States.
then.
They really did.
Mhm.
All right, so we're talking about anatomy of a grape. Okay,
Mhm.
so neither one of these, because they're both white grapes, but
Right.
the Semillon particularly has a very thin skin,
Mhm.
but it has a very rich area here in moving into the
That
intermediate
top
zone.
layer of the meat.
Right. So it's putting a lot more in the peripheral zone here
Mhm.
for the flavor. Not as acidic in the center, where you have Sauvignon Blanc, thicker skin, so
Mhm.
you're getting some nice flavors from there, but then you're going for important areas going all the way into how much acidity it has.
Hmm.
So Sauvignon Blanc, you're getting a little more here, skipping to here, whereas Semillon is more skipping here, going here into the peripheral zone,
Mhm.
and not as important there.
Okay.
Oop, there we go. Here, not so much here.
Well, right.
We're going Tommy Boy on this.
Jeff grabbed the mouse and he doesn't normally do the slides. So
I do.
would you like for me to advance?
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right. All right. So
All right.
let's take a look at where we are. We are in the Southern Hemisphere this week. All right. And we are way over here in the far western area of Australia. And so down, at the bottom quarter of the top of where you can grow grapes,
The top quarter of the bottom.
top quarter of the bottom
Latitude,
latitude,
yeah.
right? Here we go. Here we go. Cheerio, chap. Nope, that's England.
So we have to go to the west side, right?
So we're way over here in Margaret River, like the furthest west.
Yeah,
like,
wow.
way over there. I love this map, by the way. Wine Society, fantastic work right there. That's awesome. So Barossa, which is where you'll see most Australian wine in the
Mhm.
United States, that's where Barossa is. So,
Well, it shows you that it goes right along that latitude map that we showed us
right.
before, because there is nothing
yeah, right. You get up
on the
here.
top, almost 2/3 really, but yeah,
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
all here, all coastal,
right.
not almost all, the Murray
Almost all.
Valley.
But
not,
river valley, it looks like
Right.
for the rest of them. Mhm.
but yeah, almost all coastal and down here in that growing zone. Over here, this Western Australian growing districts. Swan District is why the Margaret River District was discovered. We'll talk about that a little bit later
Oh.
on. Yeah.
Huh.
So they were growing here first, but now this one has eclipsed everything else in the Western. Within that, so here's the Margaret River itself. It's named for the Margaret River. Oh, what a shocker, right? And we're down in the southern part here for our drinking this week and our sourcing. I like that. You are here. That wee little tip. So this is the Margaret River as it empties into the ocean. You know how many crocodiles there must be?
You're right, but it almost seems that it just peters out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's what Jake said when he was looking at it. When I was making the slides, he's like, I expected a bigger river. It's
Right.
the whole region's named after it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Just kind of looks like it gets to the sand and just gets absorbed
right
there into the
Yeah,
sand.
maybe it's a really slow moving river.
I mean, you can tell that there are times where it's more though, because of what it looks like on the right side there.
Right.
It's got to, the water's going to flow with that at some point.
You can see there's a lot of sand in that area. Right. By the way, Margaret River originated as a
Excuse me one moment.
surfing destination.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. So it was a remote surfing destination, and not until the 1950s was it discovered as a great place to grow wine. So it started kind of in isolation, and it's been there for about the last 50 years. Here's a kind of a look at the area. Margaret River was named in the 1830s for Margaret River, and she was part of a family that was important with colonizing different cities over in the far west of Australia, which is crazy though, because you look at it, it's like it's the 1800s. It's not that long ago. And that's when people, when Westerners
Mhm.
began coming over there. No disrespect to the indigenous peoples, but that's when Westerners were establishing different cities over there.
Oops.
So in 1955, that's good. 1955, University of California viticulturist Harold Almo discovered this area while he was up at the Swan. What is it called? Sorry.
It's okay. You can go back.
Let's head
There we
back.
go.
I
think it was
go
one
one
more. There we go.
Swan District. So well, that's not very catchy. No wonder I didn't remember. So the Swan District, he was actually studying, he was sent to study this area, and they said, well, you got to go see this gorgeous, beach while I was there. And he came down here and he said, this is much better for growing grapes. You guys should really think about going down there. So there's only been wine growing there for 50 years.
Really?
So it's not a long lineage.
Wow.
And they've taken over as a very prestigious region within Australia because it's just that good.
Huh.
About 150 wineries there now. Most of their startup were hobbyists. There was a lot of hobbyists and farmers that just educated themselves very quickly. But with the world kind of changing, and I've talked about this after the Judgment of Paris in the early 70s, right? The world began really concentrating much more on making good wine. So there really isn't much of a history here of just making quantity wine. It's almost all about quality of wine, which is kind of fun. That's maritime influenced on the climate, because you see they're right up against the ocean. So they do get fogs, they get cool breezes, helps cool them because Australia is so hot.
Right.
Yeah. So,
well, that must be because
dry Florida.
I'm not used to looking in between the rows of vines and seeing any kind of green. Normally it's just like rocky and dry. And so, I mean, it's got to be okay. There's something going on down there, but there's so much heat that it's combating it. Because it looks kind of verdant here.
It is a bit more verdant, and there are actually there are trees. Right? Some of these places don't have a lot of trees around. So it is a little bit more verdant. But the soil is still extremely poor. It's it's basically
growing anything but
I mean it obviously grows enough, but because they do have things, but it's really fast draining. Red clay and sand and red gravel, high minerality, low water retention or quick draining, and low organic compounds in there. So yeah, they in the end it works really, really well for wine growing. Voyager Estate was established in 1978 by Michael Wright on the left, and is now run by his daughter Alexandra Burt. So only just one generation handoff.
Yeah.
Family owned and run and fully operated to this day. So it's all them, which I know everyone loves that, and it's great. I mean, it's not the only way to make great wine, but it really is nice when you can connect with a family's production. Organic and sustainable. Organic is new, moving into it. Officially organic is new, moving into it, and it's moving vineyard by vineyard in there, but they are, let's go, effectively organic and sustainable. They've replanted over 70,000 indigenous trees to replace clear-cut farmland while they've been there.
Wow.
So they really, the sustainable side, they move into a lot of community involvement, and in addition to running their farm and winery as efficiently and cleanly as possible for the land. 25% of the electricity that they use comes from solar panels. So they're doing what they can.
That's great.
Yeah. Here's the estate and vineyard. Looks quite lovely. It's a wedding location.
I can see that.
Right.
I didn't expect it to be so manicured in Australia.
Right.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
I mean, obviously the vineyard where the grapes are is different, but that the whole area where I guess
Right.
they're hosting weddings and events. That makes sense. But
Well,
it's
yeah,
it's
you're right.
very, very manicured. It's beautiful.
This reminds me of France.
That's what I was thinking. Mhm.
Yeah, some of the
Mhm.
chateaus in France, and then you're
Mhm.
like, oh, palm trees.
True.
Yeah. And here's the inside, which to me almost looks a little Dutch.
Yeah.
You know?
Or English.
Yeah, because it reminds me of some of
Mhm.
the inside of the South Africans.
Mm,
And
yeah.
South African is very Dutch inspired. So
Sure.
that, I don't know, to me, that was my initial thought.
Mhm. Ready?
Yep. All right. So it's that time to talk about what we think. 92 points.
Mhm.
What was that? James Suckling, right?
Yes.
So,
JS.
yep.
Mhm.
So he called this guy an outstanding wine of superior character and style. Did it have a lot going on? Did it have complexity? Was it also enjoyable at the same time? And did it give you a sense of place? These are all wonderful ways to kind of wrap your head around it, because for many of us, we're probably drinking our first Sauv Blanc Semillon
Yes.
blend, right?
Yeah, I've had a Sauv
So-
Blanc, but not a Sauv Blanc Semillon.
Right. So that
Mhm.
was kind of, for me, that would be kind of what I'm thinking. Does it give me a sense of place? Did I enjoy it? Did it have some complexity that had me really thinking about this wine? And do I think it could really pair with a lot of it?
Brian says 100. Julie says 90, but he's typing, so he gives her a 100 too. So they both say 100.
All right. Rachel and David say at
89.
the top end of a very good wine with
Mhm.
special qualities.
89 to 90 from Chris.
Yeah,
And
89.
Robin 89.
Okay.
Usually not Sauv Blanc
Oh,
fan,
nice.
but she likes this one.
I like
90.
it. 90 from Brenda.
So maybe because of that Semillon, Brenda.
Right.
Paul says 91. Linda says 92.
Yep.
You're just throwing wine.
I'm throwing
everywhere.
wine as I spin it.
Jerry and Harriet 89 and 92.
Mhm. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So
I would have said 91.
91.
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can go there. I'd be
Mhm.
right at 91 ish. I'd be 90 to 92. So call it a 91.
I like
is
the
a-
complexity of it a lot.
Mm.
It is always a challenge for me with the whites.
Mhm.
It really is. It's because I do like it, but I would
Mm.
always pick a red if I had a choice.
Sure.
Mhm.
I get what you're saying.
Regardless of what I'm eating.
What
Oh.
if that red was Pinot Noir?
No, I like Pinot Noir.
Okay.
I do.
I know, but
So
it's your less favorite.
True.
Yeah. So that's why I was
yeah.
putting it out there. So not hating on Pinot. And I know you're not hating on Pinot. It's okay. So, all right. Yeah. I agree. I'm right up there at 90 plus, on just a quick throw it out there. Delicious wine, nice complexity, lots of ability to pair this with food. And honestly, that's going to take it to the next level.
Sure.
I think if you were eating ceviche on a sunset at the
Oh,
beach and
sure,
drinking this
absolutely.
wine,
Mhm.
you're probably going to go 92, which,
Yeah.
what? That's probably what James was doing.
So, and pairing it would definitely influence.
Right.
Yeah.
I think something with a little
Absolutely.
cilantro in it, like a chicken cilantro soft taco or something too.
Yeah.
Maybe even a mango chicken cilantro taco. I'm getting really
Are you
specific.
making that for us?
That sounds good,
That
right?
sounds
I just
really
made that
good.
up, but honestly, I think that would be the kind of thing where you're like, okay, bam, wow.
Yeah.
right?
Well, I
So-
have had some wines that I did not like
Mhm.
without food. And then you're like, here, try this. Because Jeff, as you know, just puts alcohol in front of me. And so I was eating something and it was a Chard actually, and I didn't know it was a Chardonnay. And you're like, here, try it with this. And it paired really well. And then you were like, you're drinking a Chardonnay.
Yes, it was
So
a buttery oaky show.
I know it was something that I normally would not have reached for at all. So
Right. That was the India spiced inspired squash based chili.
oh
Turkey
yeah,
chili.
yeah. It was the turkey butternut
Butternut squash turkey
Mhm.
chili.
Yeah.
with lots of turmeric
Yeah.
and a little cayenne too. And
It's
oh,
spicy.
it was amazing
It
with
pairs really well with it. So, okay, they said this one would be good with steamed salmon. The
Okay.
Hamza said that.
Yep.
And then Brenda said, drinking this alone since she already had dinner, I think it would be great with the right food pairing. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
absolutely.
It's definitely also a food wine. It really would benefit from that. But
Sure.
but I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Oh, yeah,
So,
absolutely.
all right.
Ready?
Yep.
For the next slide?
All right. Thank you to winefolly750.com, Wikipedia, australiawine.com, and voyagerestate.com.au for all of the helpful information you provided while I was putting this together. And it was a lot of fun. It's kind of fun to bring something in that, well, it's like last week's too, where you bring something really new in and share it with everybody. And even I'm new to it ish, it's only my second tasting. So it was a lot of fun for me. So, all right. So I think it's that time to reveal what we're doing next week.
Okay.
So next week, we're going to the Fontanelle Venco 2012, by the way. Look at that vintage, everybody.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's an Italian red blend, but a very unusual red blend.
Okay.
All right, so this is from my favorite area generally, until I get my new favorite area of Italy, right? Because then I'm like, no, Sicily, no, but Veneto. So up where we make Amarone, where they make Amarone, they're famous also up there with Pinot Grigio and the cool whites, but they love those big, richer reds. This is kind of inspired, I would think, because they're coming on after Tuscany, by Super Tuscans, where they're bringing Bordeaux varietals into Italy, right? So French varietals grown in Italy, in this case, up in northeastern Italy, up in Veneto, where we were before for a couple of them. So this guy is Merlot, Cab Franc, and Pinot Nero, which is
Pinot Noir?
It's Pinot Noir.
Okay.
In Italy, it's Pinot Nero. All right. So you're like, wait a minute, red blend with Pinot Noir, like that is not a common thing. I think you guys should join us. It is wonderful. It's really great. And it needed this time. like I tell you
It
one
would have
thing.
been way too tight.
Oh my goodness. It's a robust, wonderful wine. And I think it's just a whole lot of fun. Spicy roast red meats and sausages, or grilled mushrooms, but throw that spice in there to make it handle it. Italian meat sauces, eggplant parmesan.
So when does this come into the store?
It's in the store.
Okay, good, because I may be in Auburn for the next one.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you tune in, because dear Lord, I have heard from everybody here. They don't like it when you're not there.
I'm just like the color commentary and I ask all the dumb questions. So, we are trying to spread the word for our tastings. So if you use social media, if you would take a picture of yourself with the, whatever picture you want to stick on Instagram or whatever, and tag us, that would be great, because we're trying to spread the word. So,
right.
Yeah.
We can always do more.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about virtual.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, when we have 500 people in here, you are going to have to raise your hand. But other than that,
we're going to
nothing
have
will
to give
change.
the originals VIP locations.
Exactly. Only the originals get to come to the after party, and then
That's right. Everyone else, thank you.
Yeah.
We're seeing this recorded, so
we're just kidding. Wink.
We don't have favorites. It's fine. We're fine.
All right, let's have a toast and stop recording.
All right.
All right. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. I think you enjoyed it. Seemed like it.
Thank
We'll
you,
see you
everyone.
next week.
Cheers.